Now we've got our login and sign up system working, the next stage is to add some user details, i.e. an image, a gender, and an interested in field for each of our users when they sign up. So this, of course, I'm going to set as a challenge, and I'm just going to show you now what I'd like you to try and build. So if I log in as an existing user, it now redirects to a new view controller, and you can see we've got a profile image there, which of course I can update via the Photos app. And we can also use switches, which we haven't used before, but you should be able to figure out how to use them to switch between man and woman and interested in men and women. We'll just have the two options for both of those for now. And then, of course, when you click update there, it updates and displays an error message should there be one. So that's it. Seems pretty simple, but there will be some challenges along the way, one of which may well involve ACL. So I'm leaving this little bit of code on the page in front of you there, just so that you can see it. It might be of use to you. For now though, best of luck. Try and recreate something like this for your app. Go for it. Okay, hope that went well. I'm going to start by adding a new view controller. So we'll jump over to main storyboard, adding my view controller. There we go, and we'll set up a segue, which will likely be calling soon enough from our sign up page to our go to user info. Okay, so now we've got our segue. Let's create a new file to be our class for our new view controller. So I'll call this user details view controller. There we go. And as always, we'll link up our view controller to, it's in there somewhere, user details view controller. All right. So now just before I do a test, I'm going to set up in view did appear our segue. Actually, we don't need to be saving those objects anymore. So we're going to check to see if pfuser.current is not nil, and if it's not, we'll perform segue with identifier, and the identifier is, we'll get there, go to user info, and the sender is the view controller or self. So let's just check. We should be logged in now. So it should transition us straight to our new just blank view controller. Let's take a look. And there we go. You can see now we're logged in, ready to go. Okay, so let's set up this new user details view controller. So I'll start by adding an image view. So I'll add this fairly near the top and make it aspect fit. And as before, I'm going to give it a default image. I'm just going to use the same image I used before. So I'm going to drag that image in. and then click away and click back on the image to refresh the drop-down menu, and there we go. So there's the user's image, and we're going to give them an option to, when we're zoomed in a little more, update profile image. And then we're going to set up the options for the user. So I am a, and then we'll have a label that says man, another that says woman, and a switch, which allows the user to choose between the two. There we go. Then we'll have another label. So just underneath that one, I'm interested in, and bring that down just a little bit. In fact, let's move all of those to the right a little so we've got room for everything. So just underneath there, we'll change that to men. And women, and bring in a final switch. There we go. And then we just need a final button to confirm and update the user's info. And again, as we did before, I'm going to make this button a little more prominent by switching it round so that the background is that blue and the text color, if I've got it selected, is white. There we go, and that just makes it a little clearer that this button's just to update your image and this one updates everything. All right, so that's our layout for our user details view controller. Let's now add some outlets. So I'll start with the user image. I'll just call that user image. Then we've got update profile image. So we need an action for that one. Then we'll need this switch, which I'll call gender switch. That's just an outlet. We don't need to do anything when the switch is changed. And then another outlet for interested in switch. And finally, and update button. There we go. Excellent. Now we're ready to write some code. So let's start with our update profile image method. We should be pretty familiar with this by now. So we need to add a UI navigation controller delegate, as well as a UI image picker controller delegate. Then we need to create our image picker, which is going to be a UI image picker controller without the delegate. Then we set the image picker delegate back to the view controller. We set the source type. And again, you could choose which one you liked here, or even give the user the choice. But as we don't have access to the camera, I'm going to go to Photo Library. And then, as before, just to keep things simple, we'll disallow editing. There we go. And then we'll present the image picker. With some animation, and we're not interested about completion at this point. Next then, we need to take our image and do something with it. So we'll use the did finish picking media with info. And we'll attempt to get our image from, if you remember, info, UI image picker controller, original image. There we go. And we'll need to cast that as a UI image. And if we're successful, we'll set it to user images image. And either way, we'll dismiss the new controller that we've created with animation, but we don't need a completion. All right, time for a test, I think. So we should be redirected immediately to the new user details view controller as soon as we're logged in. And then if we click on the update image button, we should be able to choose an image from the photo library, and it should be updated in the image there. But I've forgotten something. Did you remember this? It's easily forgotten, especially because it wasn't needed in iOS 9. In the info.plist, we need to add a new row with a reason why we need the image. So photo library user description to show other users what you look like. There we go. Let's try that again. We did get a nice useful error message there though, which was a treat. Okay, so update profile image. This time, yep. We would like you to access the photos. And we'll again pick a waterfall. And there we go. So it's updated on the image in our app. By the way, I think it's a good time to show you a little trick to get images added to your simulator. If you go back to the home screen, which I did with Command-Shift-H, you can also use hardware home, and then open up Safari. Then any image you find in Safari, Homer Simpson for example, you can download and save to your phone. So let's go for this particularly dashing one. So you can long press on the image and then click Save Image. And then you'll be able to see that image in your camera roll. There we go. So that's going to be my profile image for this app. Wonderful. So now it's time to go for the update button. So let's go back over to our view controller and down to the update method. So first off, let's just see how the switches work. So if we find the gender switch and look at the options, we get is on. And that's actually the main control. We don't have a value option as such for a switch. We just have on or off. So on for that first switch will represent a woman and off is a man, and on here will represent is interested in women and off would be interested in men. So let's just see that in action quickly. So here we go. Let's tap update and we can see true because it's currently enabled. If we turn the switch off, it's a little tricky to do in the simulator, then we can see false. Okay, so as we've got binary choices here, using booleans is a good idea. So I'm going to update the current user with these details when the button is pressed. So we'll get pf user, which we'll only get once we've imported paths. So pf user and then current. And I'm going to set up a new variable called is female. And this is going to be equal to gender switch dot is on. So it'll be true if they're female, false if they're male. And I think we'll need pop in a question mark there just in case that doesn't exist, but we know that it does. And bit of a mouthful, but is interested in women will be how interested in switch and is on. So we've got two nice true or false values there. And then the other option we want to save is the photo, which we'll do using a PF file. And as we've seen before, we'll create an image data variable, which will generate from UI image PNG representation from the user image, which again, we know exists. And then we'll set pf user dot current, and I'll call this photo equal to a pf file with a name of profile.png. Again, you can use anything you like there, and the data is image data, and we may need to force unwrap that, but that will definitely be fine. Okay, then we want to save the current user. So pf user dot current dot save in background, again with a block. Success and error. And just as we did before, we'll add a quick label for an error message. Just in case we need one. So we'll stretch that out and center. Delete the text. In fact, we'll make it red again. Then we'll add the IB outlet for it. There we go. And then I'm just going to grab the code from viewcontroller.swift to get the error message. There we go. So if there's an error, we'll just change that to update failed. Please try again. Then we'll try and get the error message. If we do, we'll display that. If not, we'll print updated. There we go. So the user should now be able to save their gender, their preference, and their photo to our Pass server. Let's check it out. So we'll create a fantastic profile pic first of all. And so I think Homer is a man interested in women. So we'll update that. And now we've got an interesting error here. We saw this error in the previous video, but it's strange that we're getting it here. We talked about the ACL, which is our way of determining who can read or write to a particular object. And the default for Pass users is that anyone can read them, but only the user themselves can update their own data. But that behavior is not what we're seeing here because we're currently logged in as this user and yet it's not letting us update that user data. So this could be a Pass server bug, but either way, it's a good opportunity for me to show you how to change ACL because we'll need it later on anyway. So we'll do this when the user is created. So when the user is signed up, then we'll set their ACL at the same time. And we do this by creating a variable which I'll call ACL, which is going to be a PF ACL. And then with our ACL, and we're going to get public write access and set that equal to true. So this allows anyone to write to that object. Of course, they can only write in terms of what our app allows them to do. So we're not opening up anyone to be able to change this user's data. We're just allowing our app to write to this user from potentially another user. And then we're going to set the user's ACL to be equal to ACL. And then let's try that out. We will need to sign up again. We haven't got a logout feature yet. So what I'll do is I'll just remove that from the simulator. So a long press and shutting that down, and then we'll run it again. There we go. So now we should be asked to sign up again. And I'll give myself a new username so it works. And there we go. Did you see the signed up there? That does remind me that we should add the redirect in when the sign up and login is successful. So let's just quickly do that. There we go. But the main thing is to have a quick look in Pass dashboard. So let's refresh that. And now you can see we've got public write on the ACL there. So if we now jump back over to our simulator, update the profile image, choose Homer, change him to a man, and then tap update. There we go. We didn't get an error message. And you will need to refresh the whole page here to get the new column headings. Let's have a look. There we go. So we've got is interested in women true, is female false, And if we have a look at the image, there it is. Brilliant. So that's not an ideal solution. And I'll update this video when I find out that there's been a change to that behavior. But for now, to allow us to update the current user, it looks like we need to set public write access. But that's okay. As long as our app is designed well, that can't be misused. All right, so we're nearly there. There's just one thing I want to change about this page, and that is that if we open the app and get back to that page again, it won't remember the user's details. So it will reset itself to this. So let's add a few lines of code to view.did_load to check to see if the current user has entered those details, and if so, update them. So let's have is female, and we're going to attempt to set that equal to pfuser.current, and then is female. I've just realized I'm doing that in the wrong view controller. Let's go back to user details view controller and do it there. And we'll need an optional there. So if that's the case, then we want to update the gender switch. We want to set on to be equal to is female. Because remember, if is female is true, we want the gender switch to be on. And we will need to cast that to a Boolean for that to work. Okay, so that is female. We want to do essentially the same thing for is interested in women. So that is interested in women, and again as a Boolean, and then as before we want to set interested in switch to that. But not is female, is interested in women. And then finally we need to get the profile picture, which remember is the photo variable. So let's copy that again. I'll call this photo. So pfuser current photo as, this time it's a pf file. Then this time we want to take our photo and get data in the background. So this will actually download the photo from our parse server with data and error. And I'm going to ignore the error message and just check to see if there is some image data. And if there is, we'll attempt to convert it to an image. So we'll set downloaded image to UI image from some data, and the data is not data but image data. And if that works, then we'll update the image, which is user image, and set the image equal to downloaded image. All right, so let's just quickly run that. Oh, we'll need a self there because we're in a closure. And then let's check that we now should see the preferences and the profile picture of the user when they load that page. And there we go. Wonderful. So we had some hurdles to jump over there, but we're there now. So now we're almost in a position to be able to start our dragging left and right. But of course, we're going to need a number of different users to do this in. So one way to do that would be to manually save a number of users on the past dashboard, but that would be pretty boring. And if we wanted to do lots of users, it would be pretty time consuming as well. So as we're developers here, we're going to use code to speed up the process. So by the end of the next video, we should have a collection of cartoon ladies for Homer to swipe left or right on.